Ooh, team. It's Molly. It's what you're craving. Got so much delightful feedback on my solo podcast from 2 weeks ago, and people saying that these are the ones that are really helping them change. So I'm going to do my darndest and really practice opposite action to shame and opposite action to fear by doing more solo podcasts. I'm here to grow. You're here to grow. We're all here to grow. I'm taking a big sip out of my 40-ounce Stanley mug. Highly recommend. And we're going to talk about some things. So, first of all, happy almost June. Love getting to spend all of these months with you. And we had such an amazing time at our self-forgiveness fireside, like changes beyond changes beyond changes, a lot of shifts. And it's actually what I want to talk about today. But as I said about acceptance, it's not a 1.5 hour fireside. It's sort of a lifetime of 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 15,000 steps forward, 10,000 back. You know how it is. Wax on, wax off vibes. And but we had a wonderful time, and we're going to do one at the end of this month. I'm just not sure when, but stay tuned. I'll let you know in our next podcast when that next fireside is going to be. And listen, of course, it's a lifetime venture, and then we want to chip away at it. We want to chip away at being worthy of our own love and being worthy of our own forgiveness. So spending an hour and a half on a Sunday night, really taking that time to focus on it. I mean, number one, that intention is so powerful for your spirit. It's that intention of setting aside an hour and a half to heal is just like one of the greatest acts of self-love, I'm telling you. And then, bit by bit, it's a lifetime venture. As my coach said to me this week, Molly, we're never really healed, are we? Which made me very mad and then very validated. It really did. I sort of was like, what? And then I was like, yeah, that's true. So we can dialectically live these big, beautiful lives and be constantly leveling up in a gentle, loving way, not in a hustle, I'm not good enough way. So what I found so interesting about our forgiveness, self-forgiveness fireside seminar, whatever you want to call it, is just how incredibly programmed we are to hate ourselves, how incredibly programmed we are to believe. And I say we, because friends, I am with you. I've done a lot of my own work on this, and a lot, capital LOT 800 font, lot of work on this. And anyway, so we were talking, there's about 35 of us there, and we were talking about it. And I was so struck by when I asked the question about why is it so hard to forgive yourself? And we were talking largely about body, food, weight stuff. Why is it so hard to forgive yourself? And a really common answer, probably the most common answer that people had, was effectively, I don't know, effectively like, I've had this belief for so long that I don't even know why it's ingrained in me to believe that. Isn't that something? And boy, I'm not saying that in a judgmental way. I am saying that in a relate, hands in the air, preach it. I understand that. But that's a frightening proposition that we are holding on to such an incredibly toxic belief, and toxic in a way that really, misogyny, I mean, all of it, right? Like that's really what keeps us down. If we are constantly holding a belief that is we just don't really have much valid science to support it. It's not like we killed somebody or whatever. It's just like, I don't know. That's what I believe. I just believe that. We're really in trouble. We really got to look at this. And what I was really talking about, or what I'd like to talk about today with all of us, is how when we're talking about being forgiven, self-forgiveness, when it comes to, constant, big quotes, constant failure in not being able to succeed in healing our food, weight, diet stuff. I wonder what part of us puts the diet industry into the equation, right? Because really, we are enveloped by the diet industry. We are enveloped because one time I was in a group of women and we were talking about body image. And you know what? The women in that group had the very same answer. Why do you hate your body so much? And their answer was like, because. No data, no this, no that, no real reason, just like because. And we really looked at part of this generational belief system. And this diet industry has been alive and well for a really, really long time, right? Like our mothers had beliefs about their body and food and weight, and their mothers had beliefs. I mean, I know my grandmother, certainly, my grandmother Iris had a lot of beliefs from what you should be looking like. And I'm sure her mother, and so on and so on. And all my grandmothers, my mom sort of. Um, it's another podcast for another day, but I want us to really look at that, because if we can really start to key in to there being, this voice, like it's really a little man behind the curtain, and it's this big Oz that we are really controlled by. And if we can start to understand who we're being controlled by, that is really fostering and reinforcing this belief that we're unforgivable for what I don't know, right? When it comes to our food and body and weight, this idea of diet industry asking us to be perfect and then setting us up with the most unrealistic ways to heal fosters this belief, right? Diet industry says to us, because you're not doing it perfectly, you're not good enough. You are the problem, right? You are the problem. Like these diet coaches that I read their post and they said, do you know what the common denominator of all your diet failure is? You. And guess what that does for those diet coaches? Keeps them in your system forever. You hold this belief that you're unworthy. You hold this belief that you're not enough. You hold this belief that there's just this one thing and that will make it all better. That's a perfectionistic belief. It's just there's no truth to it, right? You put all of your power in these other people. You don't, and then when you don't meet their expectations, which are unrealistic and impossible, and when you don't match their idea of who you should be and what you should look like and how you should feel, that reinforces this idea that you're not enough, that forgiveness isn't possible for you, and it keeps you really stuck. And the other thing I want to say about it is not only does it keep you stuck, it keeps you obsessed. It keeps you obsessed on your not enoughness. It keeps you obsessed on what you should be and when I am this, and it also just, the obsession is so great that you can't do anything else. I know this. I've been there. You can't be helpful to other people. You can't wake up and see where you can help in this world that needs our help so terribly, right? We're sort of taught to not forgive ourselves in diet culture, right? Diet culture thrives on us not forgiving ourselves and on us in that way. Like if we were to forgive ourselves and to say, you know what, I was in an impossible cycle caused by this long-standing diet industry and I'm out. I may want to heal, but I'm not going to heal this way, right? But we're so enveloped by diet industry and they're counting on us not to heal. When we wake up to this, we get out of their system and their Rolodex is thick. They want us in there forever and ever and ever. Right? They always want us to look for an outside answer. They always want us to look for this perfectionist island that doesn't exist. And if it doesn't, we're there for like 1 minute. I always remember this thing about like, if I just weighed 153 pounds, then that's the day. That's the day. That's the day. And what I'd like to say, I was saying this at about 154 pounds. Anyway, and then there was a day where I weighed 152 pounds and I went to my therapist and I was frazzled beyond frazzled. Because now I'm like, well, how do I maintain this? How do I do this? And that's diet industry. If they can get you into a point where you are never enough, you're not enough if you're below the weight, you're scared if you are the weight, you're terrible if you're not the weight, then we never need to take our power back. We never need to become who we're supposed to be. We never need to be open to help the world. And we're always putting our dollars towards this unrealistic idea of healing because we don't believe we're valuable. We don't believe we're forgivable until we this. I mean, it is, lovies, it is so twisted. It is twisted. And I mean twisted. I mean twisted in the sense, but I mean twisted like, wow, this is like a fine necklace twisted into a ball, isn't it? And then you say, you know what, forget it. I can't even get this twist out. Yes, you can. The thing is that this, like, regarding our self-esteem, this diet industry just has such a significant impact on us, right? Because it promotes these narrow beauty standards. It perpetuates this idea that we're determined by our appearance. And I think in many ways, like, our society supports it. Our society supports it. And all of this external validation and this rewarding when we're doing whatever program you says is like saying is enough, which will never be, because once you're enough, you're out of their system. You know, all it does is reinforce your feelings of not being enough and not being forgivable. Our self-esteem is eroded. It causes us to be binging. It causes us to be restricting and then binging. It causes us to be self-harming in our actions. It causes us to be self-harming in our thinking. And it just makes us small, doesn't it? Right? All of these tactics that they use to reinforce that we are not enough, that we are not forgivable, preys on us, right? It promises us quick fixes. And if we transform, it'll be better. Like, it's just not true. It's just not true. And so I want to just remind you why diets fail really quickly. Diets fail. And I want to say in this, I want to own my part, which is to say that I wrote a book called Breaking Up with Sugar, but I want to say, like, I don't know that breaking up with sugar is right. And I think people break up with sugar and find recovery. And by recovery, I mean the place in which they recover and heal, like this beautiful, luscious space that is loving. And a lot of times, the secret for some people, not all, is taking these substances that impact your brain and your endocrine system to make it so this is so impossible. Because it's like we're programmed up by diet culture, but when we're programmed by diet culture and hijacked by sugar and flour, we have no hope. Well, we have lots of hope in other areas, maybe, of our life, but it's hard to break free when those two things. But it's not the solution for everyone. It's just a solution for some of us. And I want to say I also run coaching programs, but I'd like to make it clear that at least the coaching programs I run, like, the goals are set by you, because I don't think that I only know that the scientific data says that self-determination, when we determine the path that's right for us, and then we're guided by people who are really helpful and supportive and well-trained, which is what my programs are. So you make your own goals there. I'm not one to say what you should or shouldn't do. I'm there to suggest. And sometimes I'm there to suggest like a rhinoceros, but sometimes a coach needs to be louder than the disease that we're struggling with. And so I always love when people find freedom and don't need me as much. That's my goal. I'll go have another job. If everybody finds freedom and starts to forgive themselves and starts to love themselves and not so depleted by all of this toxic diet culture noise and all of this sort of repeated belief that we're not enough and we're not forgivable for whatever reason, you have to, if you really believe that you're not forgivable, you have to look at how diet culture has contributed to it. And you have to look at how diet culture has contributed to it to benefit them. Like, we are really stuck in this abusive relationship with diet culture that's draining all of our energy, resentment and lack of forgiveness. They're sort of the same, but they're sort of not. And self-hate and all of those, they are the most draining of feelings. And healing actually takes a lot of energy. And so if you're really embedded in this not enough-ness, and you're really embedded in just when I weigh that, and I'm never going to, and I'm the worst, and I can't believe I did this to myself. If that is only channels that are playing on the radio of your soul, you're depleted and you won't be able to heal. And I want you to heal. I want you to heal. So I want you to take a look at, there's this great exercise they give you in the book, Breaking Up with Sugar. And I love it. And I actually learned it in 12 steps, where it's like, I want you to write down all of the approaches you've ever taken at trying to heal this relationship with food and relationship with body. And I want you to really look at each one of them. And I want you to see if they were sustainable. Like, did these things really set you up for success? Because so many of these programs, and they're not telling the truth, so many of these programs promote extreme or restrictive eating patterns that are impossible to maintain. You know, what I've said for years, when I've met people in the initiation process of working with me and my programs, I'm always like, listen, it's not if you're going to screw this up. Like, you're definitely going to screw this up. And we need to work on having you do it less often and less impactfully. And so if you're really working with people that are like, this is the only way to do it, you know what I say? Someone tells you there's one way, run away. But if somebody is, you know, promoting all of this extreme stuff and you're not there, you know, somebody should be helping you to move towards it, not say, oh, see, you can't do this, so you're no good. Though I have to say, when you're stuck in an abusive cycle, that's really good for their business model. For them to believe, for you to believe that you're the problem is really, really good for a program's bottom line. It really is, because it keeps you in the cycle. I want you to take a look at all these unsustainable approaches and start to recognize the pattern of unsustainability and recognize the pattern of it keeping you stuck in this cycle, because that's where you can start to break free, right? In therapy, we always say when you move something from the unconscious to the conscious, right? Like, oh, I didn't realize it, to, oh my God, whoa, look at that pattern. Then you can break the pattern. That's where choice comes in, right? And choice is the most powerful tool around. We choose to forgive. We choose to get out of these relationships imperfectly, but we do it, right? Because really, these unsustainable approaches have gotten us sick, have gotten us sick in the cycle. And by the way, so have unrealistic expectations, right? These huge promises of rapid, dramatic weight loss, doing it easily, drinking a shake, like, you know, these unrealistic goals just lead us to disappointment and lead us to failure. And remember, like, chronic failure, like, your brain is made to protect you. So if you've been through these empty promises, unrealistic expectations, unsustainable approaches over and over and over again, and you're like, wow, I really hate myself, like, that's just your brain protecting you. Your brain's like, please stop this. Stop this. I'm going to put something big in here because I don't want you to feel this anymore. I don't want you to feel this rejection over and over and over again. Your brain's made to protect, right? And so, of course, you're scared to try again. And of course, you're constantly feeling failure. That's your brain saying, enough. And by the way, brain's kind of right. Let's find you something different to do, which is empowering and making you feel good about yourself and hopeful and inquisitive and compassionate. Like, that's how we actually heal, when we're involved and we are the architect of things, right? And honestly, so much of these unrealistic expectations contributes to us hating our bodies. Like, it's just time to take our power back, right? And the thing about diet industry is it's not individualized, right? It's like everybody's telling you this way, this way, this way. In many ways, I am too. If you come to know me, it's not that way. I just want to say that, but I always want to own my part. I do not think breaking up with sugar is for everybody. And I think a lot of us who have had chronic diet, yo-yo dieting, what we've done to our endocrine system does elicit or does suggest that maybe for a little bit of time, we can take ourselves off of these ultra processed foods and these foods that are messing with our mind that's already been messed with so much, just to get us back to a baseline. It's so helpful. It's so helpful, you know, and we are surrounded in diet culture and, you know, in these diet failing, because they're really talking all about food. And the amount of people that I have met that have fired me because I hardly talk about food when I'm treating you for your food is endless, right? Like, again, like, I got to say, you know, Mr. Miyagi was doing something right there, right? Because if we're just talking about the food, that's perpetuating diet culture. And diets, you know, listen, I will get high off of somebody telling me what I should eat, but that's not what it's ever about. It's sort of what it's about, but it's not really what it's about, because diets, you know, focus solely on the macros and the this, and that's so disordered. And it completely neglects what we're talking about here, which is, oh my goodness, I have this belief and I don't even know how it took over so much of my spirit that I'm not worthy of my own forgiveness. There's no keto bread that's going to solve for that, my loves. Like, I wish there was, believe you me. But as long as we're neglecting our emotional and psychological wellness, and as long as we're neglecting the emotional and psychological factors that contribute to this harmful eating, and as long as we're neglecting the idea that we are in this abusive cycle with a multi-billion-dollar behemoth, then we can't get well, because emotional eating and stress and our body image and this behemoth and our self-esteem and what we're doing to contribute to our self-hate it's going to influence success in anything, not just in our relationship with food and ourselves, just like any relationship, right? How we view failure is going to, like, any scientist will tell you that failure is a part of this process, but we get so fine-tuned to not wanting to be rejected by something that we're not even looking into the programs that we're doing anymore, right? We're just like, on every now and then we'll get this urge, like, oh my God, I need to lose weight. Okay, I'll do this shake program. I'll do this Prolon thing. Like, this will work, and then we're like back in this hysterical cycle. And that's exactly where diet culture wants us. It wants us back in the belief that we failed another program, that we're not enough, and that we're not worthy of our own forgiveness. If you can start to see this cycle, you can start to take back this power. And without addressing underlying factors like this one that I'm talking about right now, it's so challenging, maybe even impossible, to get sustainable and long-term success, right? And I really want you to look at this idea of how high we get off of these highs and lows, because the thing about sustainability is it's kind of boring, and so you might have to get in bed with the idea that boring is the new black, because that's good. Change happens in kind of boring ways. It happens by having people that are really educated and really understanding work with you. So there's not going to be the highs and lows of you being good and bad. And it comes with getting in connection with some people who will love you and accept you exactly as you are while you are changing, and be willing to be open to both of those ideas. Your power circle, it loves you exactly as you are, and honors and loves the idea that you want to level up and be who you know that you could be. That's the point. Like, we put ourselves in these guidance and support circles of friends and professionals that are not available to do what we need them to do. It's not just lack of education. It's having people who haven't done their own work. And so they're trapped in the diet culture, perpetuating diet culture. This is what I mean by like this generational trauma. It's not just within the generation of your family, but it's in the generation of the way that you're trying to get help. And I'm telling you, those of us who don't buy into that look very boring to you, because we're, I think about, my friend David Wiss, who I love so much, and he's great at healing this stuff. And people want to punch him in the face when he starts to talk to people about their sleep patterns, when all they want to do is lose weight. But he's right? We have to look at this kind of holistically. And I think it's a really important thing. Like, when that idea of getting really enraged that someone isn't properly helping you, I want you to look at it. You might be right. They might be, but if they're trying to help you in a way that is slower than the urgency of taking that weight off, and I understand that with my heart and my soul. I used to weigh 325 pounds. I wanted someone to cut it off yesterday. Right. And I did. And I got it cut off. And guess what happened? I didn't heal the other stuff. So I gained it all back. And so without like proper guidance and support and people who understand this in a way that is both personal and not personal and can support you and guide you, and without a power circle of people where you can be vulnerable and you can fail smack on your face and they're going to love you, but also suggest, we can't get you well. We can't get you free. And so if you're thinking to yourself, well, I'm not worthy of my own forgiveness and I don't know why, let's look at diet culture's influence in that, because that's something you can really take power of. And you can have a diet culturectomy, right? You can get diet culture, at least knowing that diet industry sets us up not to heal, and the diet culture and diet industry sets us up, like, they win when we say, I don't know why I'm not forgivable. Diet culture is like, yes, thank you, thank you. Oh, come on. I have a plan for you, right? And then we're stuck in that cycle, and it's making us spiritually sick, and it's making us kind of not available to be who we need to be, not just for ourselves, but for this entire world. So take a look at this. Like, let me know what you think. Okay. I'm really obsessed with this right now. And we're going to talk more about forgiveness in my part 2 fireside at the end of June. Don't know the date yet, but stay tuned. I would love to have you there. People are changing their lives and they're taking back their power. And that's what this world needs. It needs one of us taking back our power, influences the next one, influences the next one, influences the next one. Just as this got sick, this can heal, right? I believe in us wholeheartedly. I believe in us, crew. And I hope that this was helpful in having you start to take this power back. I love you. I believe in you. 10 steps forward, 2 steps back, whatever it is, we're always moving forward. And that's the point. All right. Love you. See you next week.